Good morning. How are you doing this morning? Chapter 8 of Breaking the Spell by Daniel Dennett. If you need to read this book as your textbook in school or for some course that you're taking, philosophy course, philosophy of religion, I feel sorry for you. Very tedious. This chapter is like almost, I don't know, it's close to 50 pages long. I read it last night, and then I end up having a nightmare. I don't think it had anything to do with the book itself. There's a little tidbit of a news story stuck in my brain about these people that got stabbed or something, and that came out in my dream. It was horrific. Ugh. But this probably didn't help either. Anyway, I got through it. Chapter 8. I'm just going to go through my notes on it. A large part of the problem with the atheists is they bounce around in their definitions of what they're trying to attack. The main purpose of all these atheist books that are out, well, one is it's a good gig for them. They get great exposure and they get great attention, and they get tons of followers and money, and they get to speak all over the place as atheist evangelists. So in that regard, they're not that much different from preachers, or I'm still getting the sleep out of my eyes, I'm sorry. They're just different kind of preachers, right? But a problem that I see is that they change what they're trying to attack. One minute they're trying to attack organized religion of one type, and the next minute they're trying to attack a specific individual. We know who that is. And so it kind of goes back and forth like that. And I wrote here in the notes, I said, Christianity is not a religion, it's a historical event. It's not a set of rules to follow, although it's often interpreted that way. It is the message that our Creator can be contacted. Anyway, the other thing, bring up false problems. Like he says, anybody that questions or makes an objection to the Christian religion, they say, that person must be Satan. He says, how many people do you know would actually say that? I don't know of any Christian that would ever say that. Oh, because in fact, the Christians that I know, they even have these programs where they welcome questions, right? They have one here at a local church called Alpha Program, and they welcome all kinds of questions that people have about Christianity. So to say that, anybody that questions it, they call them Satan, I don't know where you got that from. He mentions that in the chapter. And so I just made a note of it. It's like creating a false problem. That really doesn't exist. However, on page 207, he starts to say, he uses better examples. In fact, he talks about communists and feminists, and they will refuse to engage or have a conversation or accept questions about their viewpoint. And I thought that was insightful of him, because he's really foreshadowing what we call today cancel culture. Now, this book was published in 2006, and so I think that was a valuable insight that he had there. There's certain core groups that are cemented by their belief system, and they refuse to engage, refuse to have any conversation with anybody that's not part of their tribe. We know that today we call cancel culture. But I've never seen Christianity, or Christians in particular, engage in cancel culture, not to any significant effect that I'm aware of. I mean, yeah, I'm sure there's sometimes when people refuse to engage, but most of the time they welcome conversation, right? That's part. A lot of times it's part of their proselytizing efforts, right? They say, yeah, let's talk. But I mean, whatever. And then we go into the atheist creed. I call it the atheist creed because I've heard Dawkins say it, I've heard Sam Harris say it, and now Dennett parrots it, repeats it. And this is what it is. They say, we are we are all atheists about most of the gods that humanity has ever believed in. Some of us just go one god further. And they love to say this, right? Usually you'll hear this in a very smug tone, Well, and they get a kick out of it because they feel like they're so clever, right? When if you really examine that creed, that statement that they all adhere to, and they all repeat. I don't know who started it. Probably Dawkins started it, and they all just parroted off each other, but who knows who started it. Maybe Harris started it. I don't know. I'll read it again, just so you catch it. We're all atheists about most of the gods that humanity has ever believed in. Some of us just go one god further. The sun is just coming up in my eyes. It's sunrise here at 7 a.m., so I got to tilt down a little bit. You can see the reflection of the sunrise in my spectacles. But this statement that they use, sorry to get off topic there, this statement that they use, it points to the true God by the statement itself. They accept that all the gods that men have created are false. And then they say, oh, but we're going to go one God further. Well, they know what they're talking about by saying that. The statement itself points to the fact that they believe in God. Now, bear with me for a second. If they didn't believe in God, they wouldn't be able to make that statement that they're going one God further. That's saying they're aware of, not believing in the sense that a theist believes in, they're aware of that God. They know exactly what that God is described as. And it's not that they're not believing in it, it's that they choose to reject that God, or to malign that God, or to put down that God, right? And they usually do it in a very proud, smug way. That's just the style that they use. And whatever, that's their thing. I don't like to use the word disingenuous. I don't like it at all, but it would apply to that statement. I've said with the coming of AI, it's a good parallel that you believe in technology. I just believe in one level of technology higher than yours. But I'm sure there's an alternate parallel for that atheist creed that could easily be developed as a theist creed. I'll have to work on that and get back to you. But that statement is smug and self-deluding, really is what it is. It's self-deluding, right? Because they know that God is the creator of the universe, the all-powerful God. In general, the concept of God of the atheist is too small. They either make it a farcical interpretation, or they focus on the human interpretation of God. The human interpretation of God is religion. They should maintain that definition of religion. The human interpretation of the revelation of an all creative, all powerful being. The human interpretation of that is religion. If they stick to that definition, they would be much further ahead. But what ends up happening is that all of the atheists, bar none, will end up moving away from that definition and towards a definition of this person that lived 2,000 years ago. And they end up saying, hey, he probably wasn't born of a virgin. Why do you think that happens? They change from, see, the title of the book is Breaking the Spell. And he's supposed to be breaking the spell of man's interpretation, which leads him astray to perform all kinds of heinous acts against his neighbor. And instead of focusing on that problem, and it is a problem, they switch. Whenever they start getting a little bit uncomfortable or out of joint or whatever reason they have inside their mind, and then they, oh, this guy was just a carpenter. You don't have to guess who they're talking about. Oh, his father and mother we know. You know what I mean? Right? And I could go into more detail on that, but I think you know what I mean, right? The shifting definition. They shift their definition from one thing to another thing. And that's, they go way off track on that. What else does he talk about here? He briefly delved into his background, which was the only interesting part of the chapter, that his dad was a spy and that he interviewed this guy who was a top spy, and that was starting to get it. It says he even met, what was this guy? Philby? Sir Maurice Oldfield, the retired head of MI6. Ooh, that was the most exciting part of the chapter. Mentions Ian Fleming. He was M in the James Bond movies. Yeah, wish it had more than that, but that's just a little interlude that gets thrown in there. The incomprehensibility of God he talks about on page 220, and this is false, right? It would be incomprehensible if we didn't have this guy visit and explain what God is like to us 2,000 years ago, right? He explained a lot about what God is like. And then he goes on to this whole tedious program of belief in belief, right? Turtles all the way down. Ugh. I mean, I actually get it. I get the idea of belief in the belief in God. Fine. I get it. But it's an exercise in futility, if you ask me. And so that's it. I'm not going to talk too much about it. But if there's anybody out there that has to study this chapter for their course, or they're taking philosophy of religion or something like that, and you have a specific question on it, I'll feel free to leave me a question in the comments, and I'll happily address it. I get what he's trying to do in this chapter. It's tedious. It's an exercise in futility. But I'm just going to move on, because I could spend an hour going over my notes, and I don't want to bore you to death. I'd rather just enjoy the sunrise and not think about the turmoil that the world happens to be in right now, and just listen to the whoosh of the cars in the distance. I think it's a lot more productive. Oh yeah, and in the chapter he talks about masturbation. He says, well, if you masturbate, you don't really believe in God, because if you believed God is watching all the time, you wouldn't masturbate in front of him, would you? Jeez. It's an infantile argument. Masturbation. Oh, if you say you believe in God, then do you masturbate then? What did Jesus say anyway? Render to Caesar the things that's Caesar's. That's Caesar stuff, right? Is it any wonder that it says keep one day a week holy? Give separated time for God. And in fact, even in the scriptures, it gave instructions to the Israelite soldiers when they were out in the field. Said, if you got to go ease yourself, is the term. I mean, guy's got to go take a dump. He's got to go take a piss. Once in a while, your body wants to get some relief. You got to give yourself some relief, right? Don't overdo it. Don't abuse it. It's pretty straightforward. It's not some big scary taboo. People masturbate. That's what people do, right? Your nose fills up with snot. You got to blow your nose once in a while. That's a horrible analogy, I know, but I mean, come on. It's a bodily function, right? You got to ease yourself once in a while. It's a better analogy, actually. Sorry about the, But yeah, speaking of which, chilly out here. But yeah, so that's a non-issue, right? People bring that up, and it's a reflection of their own taboo. It's like, well, if God's real, maybe He's watching me all the time. God is so beyond what most people realize, that He pervades everything, down to the molecule, down to smaller than we can see, infinitely, and infinitely large, but all directions at the same time. He's beyond anything we could imagine. Mind-blowing is what God is, right? So far beyond what we could even imagine. To experience God is, you'll never forget it. You'll never forget it, right? It'll change the way you think about everything. Anyway, so he brings that up in the chapter. That's a non-issue. What else that sticks out in my mind? I'm trying to think. Belief in belief, and talking about this, that, and I'm gonna leave it. It just go down chasing your tail after a while. They're all chasing their tail, but God bless them. That's they got a good gig. They get good pay for that, and they get lots of attention, and yeah, that's what they do. So, and I'm a theist. That's what I do. I believe in God. I see God everywhere. I see the miraculous in every sunrise, man. I can see it out there in the distance. Magnificent, beautiful sky. Oh man, what a beautiful day. Oh, so peaceful. I'm getting tired of this beard. I think I don't like this white goatee down here. I think I'm just gonna leave the stash and get rid of this or something. I don't know. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. God bless you. I hope you have a wonderful day, whatever you're doing, wherever you are. And yeah, if you got a book you want me to check out or review, I'd be happy to. If you have any tough questions on atheism that you'd like me to address for you, feel free. I'm open to questions, open to suggestions. Thank you for watching. God bless you. Enjoy your day. Take care now. Bye-bye. God loves you. I love you too. Bye-bye.